Let me bring in our hypnotist, Marshall Silver.
It's Marshall Silver, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest hypnotist.
Oh, yeah. I got cash, baby. I just returned from Las Vegas. By the way, how was your weekend? I'm so glad to be with you. You know, we do this show live when I can, and soon we're going to do it every single day, Monday through Friday, 10 till noon Pacific time. This past 2 weeks, though, I haven't been here, and I've missed you greatly. I haven't been here because 2 weeks ago we were doing 2 back-to-back events here at Studio Money. The following week, I went to Las Vegas with my beautiful bride, Erica, and my 3 kids, Sterling, Maximus, and Prosperity, to celebrate our 19th anniversary. And it was spectacular. We were there for 5 days. And if you know me, you know we live in Las Vegas. So when we went to Vegas, we stayed in the most beautiful property that you can stay at in all of Las Vegas, our home, Prosperity Palace. So we stayed at Prosperity Palace, had a great time. We ate at all of our favorite restaurants. And for those of you that are going to Vegas, or for those of you that live in Vegas, or for those of you that are interested in what's good in Vegas, we went to all of our favorite restaurants, found a few brand new favorite restaurants, did every single thing on the bucket list that I've been talking about doing in Vegas for years and haven't done. So we went and took photos by the Las Vegas sign. I know, a very touristy thing to do, yet we did it. We got there early in the morning, so the crowd was light. Then each of the family members had an activity and then also a restaurant that we selected. And one of my activities is I've always wanted to see the Pinball Museum in Las Vegas. I don't know about anybody else. My demographic, my level 63, the baby boomers especially, we grew up on pinball machines. And when I would go to the roller rink as a child, I would get my skates, get my roll of quarters, and spend most of the time just standing in front of the pinball machine playing pinball. When I was 12 and 13, I managed an arcade in our little town in Michigan that was filled with pinball machines, and I figured out some techniques to get free games from the pinball machines. So I like pinball. So we went to the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. If you haven't been there, you should go there. It's a nonprofit. They give away about $1 million to $2 million per year to charity. And when you go in, you get a roll of quarters. Every quarter that goes in gets contributed to the charity. So it's a really, really, really cool thing. We went to the Neon Museum in Las Vegas, the Boneyard, they call it, where all the old neon signs from all the hotels and casinos, where all of them go to die. So we went there, too, and that was very cool. And it was fun for me to be at the Neon Boneyard because I had a chance to see all these signs from all these different hotels and casinos over time. Now, I've been in Las Vegas for 30 years now. I've been in Las Vegas for actually over 30 years. I moved there in 1994. So I've been there for 32 years. Hard to believe. Or what's the math on that? 94, that's 28 years, almost 30 years. A long time. I've been to Vegas a long time. Oh, by the way, I got itch on my back. And if you, I have an affiliate link if you need one, but these are the best back scratchers in the world. So at any rate, we went to the Neon Boneyard, and while there, I was telling my kids, that's the hotel I started at when I was 23. There was my first residency over there at the Sahara. I headlined on the main stage at Planet Hollywood and the Rio and so many. I was just reminded of what a blessed life I have been able to live. So that was very, very, very awesome. We got a chance to see The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. If you haven't seen The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere, it is an absolute gotta do it. It was boggling. It was such a cool experience. You're sitting there, and when you first walk into the theater, and I don't want to blow everything for you, when you first walk into the theater, it looks like a beautiful theater that you would see in any number of places. You can see the speakers hanging up in the corners. You can see there's television video screens that are hanging down in front of the curtain. and it's beautiful, and it feels like you're in this old, majestic theater. While I was sitting there, I said to my wife, who was beside me, my kids, I said, the speakers and the TV screens, those aren't real. Those couldn't be real. And sure enough, the opening of the film, bam, they all changed. Just remarkable. You're going to see when the tornado comes, you're going to feel like you were in the middle of a tornado. The wind is blowing all around you. The leaves are flying. We collected some leaves as souvenirs. The leaves are flying. It's going to feel like you're in a tornado. The flying monkeys, literally, are off the screen, flying above your head. It's amazing. Apples dropping from the ceiling. We got one of the apples as a souvenir for our anniversary, so that was very cool, too. We went and saw O. My wife surprised me with tickets to my favorite Cirque du Soleil show of all time, O. If you haven't seen O, it's a lucid dream. You'll feel like you're sitting in the middle of a dream. But here's the really cool part. My wife got us front row center seats, and I didn't know this. So we're coming in, and I asked, did we get decent seats? She said, I think they're okay, because she's so sweet. I think they're okay. And we go in, and I'm taking up the rear. I'm behind everybody. They're all walking in front of me. And she keeps walking down, and she keeps walking down, and she keeps walking down. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe our seats are on the other aisle, so we're going to go down around the front, come back up to get into our seats. But she goes down to the front row, and she says, okay, these are our seats. I said, are you sure? Because I really don't want to get thrown out of my seat in front of 3,000 people. I'd prefer not to do that. She said, no, I think these are our seats. I said, did you know we had front row center? Well, she didn't want to admit she didn't know either. Front row center. We went and did Slotzilla. We saw the Grand Canyon. We took a helicopter to the middle of the Grand Canyon, landed on the floor of the Grand Canyon. How cool was that? We went and saw BattleBots. We went to Nataya's Secret Kitchen. If you like Thai food, you will be destroyed forever. You will never be able to eat Thai food anywhere else ever again. And I'm a connoisseur. I love Thai food. It's the best in the world. We went to a place called Palette. We'd never been to this. My selection, a dim sum place called Palette, as in like an artist's color palette. Best dim sum I've had in Las Vegas. Very cool. I don't know about anybody else. When we go to dim sum places, sometimes we're not really treated well because, well, we're not Asian. I said it out loud. And so this place was hip, had a nice blend of clientele, so I didn't feel like, we were the only non-Asian people in the restaurant. And it was delicious. It was absolutely awesome. We went to Hello Kitty. My daughter wanted to go to Hello Kitty Cafe. We went to Hello Kitty Cafe. I'd recommend that at the Fashion Show Mall. That was fun. We also went to BattleBots. And like I said, BattleBots was amazing. It was cool. We went backstage. We got to control the hammers that smashed down on all the bots. So it was a cool trip. It was very fun. I'll tell you, though, and it's kind of a lead into everything that I want to talk about on today's show. Today's show, to remind you, I got stacks of $100 bills to give away for free. And if you're brand new to the broadcast and you haven't checked this out, you don't know what I'm all about, I don't mind bribing you to become a fan of mine. And the $100 aren't symbolic. It's actual cash. And I give away $100 to every single person who calls me in the second hour of the show to ask a question. That's all you got to do. Ask any question about sex, money, power, doesn't matter. When you give me a call, I'm going to give you an instant $100. You'll have it in your Zelle account later today. And if you refer anybody, then if you tell them to call in, they'll get $100, but you'll also get $20 for every single person you refer that also calls in and gets on the air. It's that simple. All you got to do is call 877-SILVER-1. That's 877-SYLVER1, just like it is on the screen. And you can call in. We only have a limited amount of space. We can only get so many callers on the air each day. So if you want to get on the air in the second hour, my recommendation is you call into the screener right now, tell them what your question is, and then we'll sort through you and figure out who the most interesting calls of the day are. We're going to talk about ending the Fed, one of my favorite topics, frankly. We're going to talk about ending the Fed, and going to talk a little bit about money. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk, because we got a lot going on in the world, and this show, when people ask me what's the Marshall Silver Live show about, it's about life. It's about life. And because it's about life, sometimes the stuff we have to deal with in life isn't pleasant. And right now we're dealing with a lot of things that, in my opinion, aren't very pleasant. I was watching BattleBots TV show the week before last, before we went to Las Vegas, in anticipation of going to the live version to watch the bots battle live. We're getting ready to go do that. And the season we watched was season 2022, season 7 of BattleBots. And when we started watching the BattleBots in their arena in Las Vegas, everybody in the audience was wearing masks. It was 2022. Everybody in the audience was wearing masks. The announcers weren't wearing masks. The competitors, the people driving the bots and building the bots, they weren't wearing masks. And yet the entire audience was wearing masks. And instantly, I felt angry. The second I saw it, the second I was reminded of what our government did to us, what the world leadership, not just in the U.S., around the world did to its citizens, I got very angry. Again, anybody with any sense, and I'm not going to debate it. It's not debatable anymore. If you're still debating it, you're a moron. COVID was a psyop. COVID was designed to see the level of compliance they could force upon people that people would accept. Will they be stupid enough to wear a mask? Not only wear the mask that the manufacturer on the very box that you pulled the mask from said, this is not effective. This does not work. We will not be held liable. We were forced by the government to take a vaccine. Talk about fascism. We were forced to not be able to visit our grandparents. We were forced to either be vaccinated or get fired, not fly on planes, be made to think we were subhuman because we refused to fall into the hypnosis and all the crap they were throwing at us. So I'm watching BattleBots, and I'm seeing all these people in the audience with masks on, and then watching right in front of me the folks not wearing masks, and I'm going, how in the world did they force that upon us? And what are they going to try to force on us next? You know, even now, we went to eat in a restaurant. We went to a place called The Library at Park MGM. Phenomenal restaurant. If you're going to Vegas and you want a very cool, high-end, quite romantic place to go to, I'd recommend The Library over at Park MGM. You enter in through a curtain. There's no door on the restaurant. You enter in through a curtain, and the moment the curtain pulls back, there's this giant 2-story library in there. The food was exceptional. The service was amazing. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. We ate at an Italian restaurant at the Bellagio. We watched the Bellagio fountains go off while we were eating caviar. It was remarkable. One of the waiters at the library was wearing a mask. Now, I personally believe wearing a mask is a personal choice. You can wear one if you want to. During the time where they were forcing people to wear masks, I refused. I just said this is stupid, number one. Number two, it couldn't be healthier to wear a mask that the mask manufacturer says doesn't help. And if they've got to do a COVID test by sticking that stick all the way back to the back of my skull, if they got to do a COVID test by swabbing so deep in my mouth, there's no way in the world a bit of my spittle is going to make you sick or a bit of yours is going to make me sick. If you got to go that far in to test, you're lying to me. It was also around the time during COVID that I went through my open heart surgery. So they tested me repeatedly as the surgical process was going on. They told me I had to be vaccinated or they couldn't do surgery on me. I said, you need to do the surgery or I'll own the whole hospital. It's not a question. I'm not forced to take an experimental thing that's not a drug. It's not a vaccine. It literally was designed to kill people. We'll talk about COVID on another show. So at any rate, I got angry. And I started thinking about the idea that we are living in the most hypnotic of times. We are living in times where mainstream media and big tech are simply telling people what to think. And unfortunately, low-level intelligence people, they fall for everything. They fall for every piece of crap that can support what they already believe to be true. Now, I get it. I understand it. And we got a lot of topics going on right now that are a byproduct of this submission, this non-critical submission. What is that? That's submission to an idea or a concept or somebody's directive without asking any questions. Now, part of the reason that the left and the libtards want people to believe that masculinity is toxic is masculinity is the only thing that's going to save our world right now. Masculinity, men stepping up to protect their families. Men who aren't easily folded by other people and pressured by other people into being something less than they are just so other people can feel better about their pathetic selves. Toxic masculinity is a phrase, just like Islamophobia, that was made up to control your brain and make you accept things that simply aren't real. Masculinity isn't toxic. Are there toxic men? Yes, of course there are. Are there toxic women? Yeah, most middle-aged white women that are rioting on the street right now, that's toxic. That's unhealthy. That's unreasonable. I posted online a simple post, and the post said, if someone breaks into your home and you don't realize they broke into your home, and then later you find them in your home, are they allowed to stay? That was the question. And underneath the comment on the post, I typed the word exactly, because that's what's going on right now with immigration. Before I go any further on the conversation on riots that are going on right now and immigration and the morons, so you can know where I'm going with this, that are against ICE. And I pray that I'm ruffling your feather. If you're pro-abolish ICE, if you're an ICE hole, then I'm talking to you. Yeah, I'm unapologetically talking to you because I'm tired of you screwing up my life and costing myself and other people that are true patriots boatloads of money while you pretend to be an American while hating America. So at any rate, the challenge is that people are being hypnotized to believe that men cannot be masculine without being toxic. And that's just insane. That's stupid. We need it. In fact, we need more masculine men so that we don't have to put up with the insanity that our government, for the most part, and the deep state for a greater part, and the ruling class for all parts are forcing upon us right now. So at any rate, the challenge that we've got going on right now is that hypnosis is the non-critical acceptance of ideas or concepts on a subconscious level. Let me say that again. Hypnosis is the non-critical acceptance of ideas or concepts on a subconscious level. One person says something, another person believes it to be true without question, and more importantly, acts upon it as if it's true. That's hypnosis. Now, inside of your brain, you have what are called D2 receptors. Psychosomatics means, psycho the mind, soma the body. Psychosomatics means that any thought sustained long enough will create an organic shift in the body. You have thoughts of stress and worry and tension long enough, you will not only create high blood pressure, you could create cardiac health challenges. You become fearful enough about a thing, you keep putting that fear out into the universe, and sooner or later that fear will take reality, it'll take form. If I'm constantly worried that my wife is cheating on me, and every single time I go home after being away from her, I have these suspicions in my brain. Oh, she went to yoga. She must be cheating on me. Oh, she took an extra hour and a half at church. She wasn't greeting anybody. She wasn't there, socializing with her friends at church. She was cheating on me. If I start thinking she's cheating on me and I start treating her like she's cheating on me, guess what? She's going to cheat on me. Why? She's going to say, well, gosh, if I'm going to get punished for a crime I didn't commit, I might as well commit the crime and get the fruits of the crime if I'm going to be punished anyway. That's how your mind works. So that's what's going on right now. We've gotten to a point where a portion of the population, and it's not a big portion, 20, 30% max, certainly not half, definitely not the majority. 20% is my guess of the population has been so conditioned to believe the BS that the Democratic Party puts out, that the challenge is that no matter what they say, they believe. Trump has created the Trump accounts, where he's putting $1,000 in every newborn American's account when they're born, and it can't be accessed, it can't be touched until after they're 18 years old. That's a government benefit, $1,000 to each person's baby as they're born, put in an account, interest-bearing, growing until they're 18 years old so they can have it when they're 18. I think that's a great idea. Somebody online says, oh, only $1,000? Did you get your tariff money yet? And I'm going, you guys would complain about anything. It's free money, and you're complaining about it. You're complaining about something else. You're going to find fault with this guy no matter what he does. So we all know that's the case. If Trump cures cancer, then all sorts of these libtards start complaining, oh, Trump just put all those doctors out of business. So there's no winning. We have to just accept the fact these people are mentally ill. And there's no way around the fact that they're mentally ill. And we're testing right now. We're in a testing phase for my show. And I wasn't going to get into this kind of stuff till later on because sooner or later they're just going to deplatform me again like they do every single time. So if you haven't registered at MarshallSilverLive.com, you should go there now before I disappear off the normal airwaves. So at any rate, what's going on is we've got people that are so deeply ingrained in their beliefs that the idea that their beliefs are wrong is too painful. Many years ago, I had a bookkeeper embezzle over $1 million from me. This woman was my best friend. Every single morning, we'd sit together, have coffee together. We'd talk about life, personal things, business things. She ran my companies. She embezzled over $1 million. I remember when I was looking at the books, and I kept saying, something's wrong here. I cannot figure out what's wrong. When I finally saw a check I knew I hadn't signed that had my signature on it, I knew she'd been embezzling from me. Except I still didn't want to believe it. I said, no, got to be something else. All the evidence was there. But I still couldn't believe it because I just didn't want to believe it. Nobody wants to believe their government hates them. Nobody wants to believe that there are people that genuinely just don't care about you. They don't care about you. They don't care whether you die. They don't care whether you die horrifically. They don't care about you. And so if you'll finally realize that it's a psyop that we're dealing with. It's not life. It's not reality. It's a psyop. And what's a psyop? A psyop is what people want you to believe because it benefits them. So it benefits people to believe that the government can protect you. It benefits people to believe that they need the IRS to make sure they don't have potholes in the road. It benefits people to believe that the Federal Reserve, really is operating in our best interests and that, they're watching out for us. And Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve right now, is keeping interest rates high because it's better for the country. It's such stupidity. It's hogwash. It's ridiculous. But we're all about to see all of that come down. As you know, obviously there's been riots going on, and some people have this misconception that we have the right to riot. It's our First Amendment right to riot. Actually, you don't have a right to riot. You don't even have a right to protest. What your constitutional right is the right of peaceful assembly. What is peaceful assembly? It's not in the street. You have zero rights to be in the street. If you get run over by a car while you're protesting, rioting in the street, you earned it. You deserve it. I have no sympathy for you. A lot's going on about Good and Pretty, these two people, unfortunately, that were shot and killed. Yes, it's massively unfortunate they were shot and killed. It is. But if I go into the jungle and I walk in front of a lion or a tiger or a razorback gorilla and I poke him in the nose or I punch him in the face, I'm going to expect that tiger to bite me. I'm going to expect that gorilla to rip me limb from limb. There's only so much a gorilla or a tiger or a lion can take, and in due respect, you're in their environment. ICE is law enforcement. That's what ICE is. It's literally in their name. They are law enforcement. They are federal law enforcement, which gives them a higher level of ability and less need to acquiesce to your stupid demands. So we've got people that believe that they can abolish ICE. And I ask, okay, let's abolish ICE. Then what? Do we just let illegal people come into our country? Is that what you're asking for? Do we give those duties that ICE had to other people? Would that make more sense? So I posted this idea about people coming into your home, and if you discover them, do you have to let them stay? And a relative of mine, because stupidity can often be your relatives too. A relative of mine made a comment. They said, well, your home is personal property. The country's not personal property. And I asked them, I said, okay, based on your concept that I have a right to not have illegal people in my home, but I don't have a right to stop them from coming into my country, where is that line? So you don't think they should be in the home. Can they be on your porch? Can they be on your front lawn? Do they need to be on the sidewalk in front of your house? Would you be okay if they built tents and camped out on the sidewalk in front of your house? I'm guessing probably not. If you don't want them on your sidewalk, can they be in the street? Because all the protesters are in the street, and apparently that's legal. Or is there a distance from your house you want them? And how far is that distance from your house versus the distance from the border? Because apparently you don't like the line that was drawn already, which was the border. You don't like that being the line that they shouldn't cross, but the front door of your house is too much. So where is it in the middle? No answer. Why? Because it's stupid. That's why. Forgive me, I'm ranting a bit because people ask me, why are you so political when you are on the air? Because it's cost me millions and millions. Why are you so political when you're out in public? You know, there are people that won't do business with me. There's an attorney that just stopped representing a civil matter of mine with no explanation, none, no reason whatsoever. He just said, you know, we have the right to not represent whoever we don't want to represent. We don't want to represent you anymore. And I kept asking them, why? Did you find something out about the case that I don't know about? No answer. Refused to answer. Which, by the way, I think is massively unethical. But then I went on his Facebook, his social media, and I saw that he's a libtard, an absolute idiot. And he's screaming abolish ICE, and he's yelling all the things that, you know, did you get your second COVID, your third COVID booster? And when I saw his social media post, I said, I get it. I realize why he canceled me. So I want to be clear. Yes, I've been canceled a lot of times. I've lost contracts. I have people that won't do business with me. And people ask me, is it worth it? And my response is absolutely, 100%. So what am I supposed to do? Pretend I'm somebody else? Pretend I don't believe what I believe? Stand for what I stand for? Should I teach my sons and my daughter to acquiesce and do whatever you need to do to get along with everybody? No, that's not what I want my kids to do. I want my kids to stand for what they believe in. I want them to be intelligent. I want them to believe in things that actually make sense. I want them to think it through. I don't want them to go to riots and protests just because it's the popular thing to do that their friends are doing. You know, you got people complaining that the ICE agents and law enforcement is spraying them with tear gas and shooting rubber bullets at them, and that their kid got injured. You know, oh my God, these animals, they're firing tear gas at children. No, they're firing tear gas at rioters. You brought your children to a riot. Be a better parent. Send CPS to their house and let them know they're inadequate as parents. You don't bring your kids, oh, I'm teaching them, you know, civil unrest, and I'm teaching them legal No, you're not. You're bringing them to a riot that has tear gas and rubber bullets. Contrary to what anybody's saying, ICE doesn't want to use tear gas. But if someone's kicking in their taillight or spitting on them, which are both felonies, by the way, if someone's doing that, they're going to get tear gas. They're going to get thrown on the ground. Are they going to get shot dead? God, I hope not. Nobody wants to see anybody die. But you don't bring a high magazine handgun and 2 backup magazines to a protest if it's a peaceful protest. You don't do that. You don't drive your car in the middle of the road to block ICE vehicles and not expect a reaction. You certainly don't run over people that are law enforcement and not expect them to respond, and in some instances, lethally. 100% on the person that got shot, 100% on the person that is committing those crimes, because both of those instances are crimes. Don't want to get shot? Don't run over ICE officers. Don't want to get shot? Don't bring a handgun with extra magazines to a peaceful protest. And the odds are increasingly less. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. It doesn't matter anymore. Right now, we are at a pivotal point where honest, good people need to speak up about the nonsense going on. Do you notice the only place the riots are occurring are blue states? 88,000 plus people have been deported out of Texas and multiple other states, red states, without one incident. Nothing. Why? Because law enforcement is working with the other law enforcement that enforces immigration laws to round up the people that are not supposed to be here. Now, I'm an immigrant. I'm a second-generation immigrant. My father and his father fled Poland during World War II. They had to come in through Ellis Island. They had to do everything that immigrants have to do to get into the country. I get immigration. This past weekend, I had dinner with some Mexican friends of mine, and I was talking to him about immigration. I said, where do you stand? He said, this is insane. He said, it makes no sense. My parents jumped through hoops to be able to come to the United States legally, to be able to have me here legally. And, you know, my experience has been people that work their butts off to do something don't have a lot of sympathy for people that try to cut corners or cheat systems. We don't. And so I said, how do you feel about that? You're Mexican. Your family's Mexican. And he said, Mexicans support Trump, by greater than 50%. We agree with immigration laws. We think there should be laws so the worst of the worst aren't brought into the country. You got to remember that during the Biden years, it wasn't just open immigration. Venezuela, Mexico, Haiti, Somalia, they were emptying their prisons. They weren't just letting people do whatever they wanted to do. No, they were actively taking people out of prison, putting them in buses, taking them to Mexico or putting them on planes, wherever they had to go, so they could cross the border on purpose. Why? So they don't have to pay for their prisoners. We're not required to take those people on. Our president's doing his job. He's protecting the country he was elected to protect. We're not required to protect any other country in the world. It's time for people to watch over their own house first and make that work. Big uproar. Trump has said that Somalians cannot freely come into the United States right now. It's a troubled nation. It is. My belief is that if you want to go to Canada, just to be clear on something, because oftentimes I'll be online and I'll see, I have a lot of really great Canadian friends, a lot of friends from Alberta right now who are fighting for sanity in their own country. They want to be the 51st state. But I have some I see some Canadian folks criticizing us here online about our immigration policies. Let's clean up your own house first. I can't go to Canada to live unless I can prove to them I have money in my bank account before I even go. I can't move to Canada unless I can prove that I have a job and I'm a contributing member of society in Canada. Can't do it. But the United States is supposed to accept every single person that wants to come? Makes no sense. So at any rate, what we've got is a place where somebody has finally said, our president, President Trump, the greatest president in the history of the United States, is saying America is not going to carry the world anymore. We're not going to pay the lion's share of money into the UN like we have been. The other nations, if they want to participate in it, they need to contribute too. They refused, or they promised, and then they didn't follow up, and Trump said, we're out of the UN. We're not doing this anymore. He created his own organization to police the world. So we've got a president that's protecting Americans first, and that's what we should do. We got people screaming about tariffs. Tariffs are going to destroy the world. Okay, so you do realize that the first thing Trump said was reciprocal tariffs. What does that mean? We're going to charge you as much as you charge us. So if you want to sell, China, if you want to sell your products in the United States, then we're going to charge you the same tariff that you charge us to sell U.S. products in China. If you go to China right now and you want to buy something not manufactured in China, you're going to pay a hefty tariff. I don't know about all the tariff levels, but I do know that while I was over there, because I've been there over 20 times, when I was over there, I was being driven around in a Rolls-Royce Phantom. And the promoter said, my Phantom costs twice as much as your Phantom did. And I said, really, why is that? He said, there's a 100% tariff on any automobile not manufactured in China if you want to buy it in China. So if you want to get a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls-Royce or even a Kia manufactured in Korea, you're going to pay a 100% tariff in China. Why? Because China wants the things that their Chinese citizens buy to be manufactured in China to keep the money in China. Makes sense? If I can source everything that I need for a project in-house, I'm going to keep more of my profits. It makes economic sense. And I don't find fault with the Chinese government or leadership for tariffing what they tariff because they're allowed to tariff whatever they want to tariff. It's a business decision on the part of leadership of that government. But Trump hasn't even done that. He said, no, we want reciprocal tariffs. And I've talked about this on a previous program, and I'll talk about it again right now. The biggest thing that people that argue against tariffs don't seem to understand. Consumers, yeah, we pay taxes, we pay tariffs, but tariffs don't impact consumers in the way that most people scream that they do. They don't automatically mean an increased price on something. Here's why. If the tariffs are too high on my iPhone, if the iPhone that was manufactured over in China, if the tariff is so high that the iPhone that I used to buy for $1,200 becomes a $2,000 phone, guess what? I'm not buying it anymore. So what does Tim Cook have to do? He's got to move his manufacturing plants from China back to the United States so they're made here in China so there is no tariff on top of it. Is the cost to manufacture in the United States slightly more expensive? It is. In fact, a lot more expensive. So Tim Cook's going to have to say, gosh, maybe I can cut into these grotesque profits that we make on every single phone that used to cost me less than $10 to manufacture in China. Now here in the United States, it might cost me 10 times that or $120. I guess I'm going to have to find another place to find that $110 dollars in profit. Maybe I'll just change out their connecting cables again like we do every single season. So at any rate, the tariffs aren't paid by the consumer unless the consumer buys it. So if you don't want to pay tariffs, guess what? Buy American. Used to be the slogan. I remember when I was a kid after World War II, every single slogan you looked at, it said, buy American, buy American, buy American, made in America, buy American. Why? For this very reason. The tariffs are bringing in record amounts of revenue right now. We are in the best place we've ever been there. GDP is up. Gross domestic product is up. Inflation is down. It'd be down way lower if Powell wasn't such a Trump hater and actually did what was good for the country and not what was good for his ego. So we are in a place where remarkable things are happening, and I promise you, we're in the best place we could be. But here's my point in all of this rant, and it definitely is a rant. My point in all of this rant is that we are in a place where good people need to stand up. I'm not a fan of these riots, and they're riots. They're not protests. Protests don't get into the street. Protests don't stop traffic. Protests don't get in the face of law enforcement. I think it's ludicrous that people think that they can move inches away from another human being, scream and spittle from their mouth landing on that other person and not have a consequence. No, you're not allowed to scream into the faces of law enforcement and expect this human being not to respond to you. They're going to respond to you. I could never be law enforcement. I admit it. I couldn't be. The moment you entered my personal space, I'd give you one warning, and if you didn't heed that warning, I would give you a result. So the challenge we've got going on right now is people have this misconception that they have a right to abuse ICE officers. They have a right to abuse these people because they don't like what they're seeing. Oh, they're snagging people off the streets. 73%, some moron online said to me yesterday, 73% of all the arrests haven't even committed a crime. Okay, what did they arrest them for then if they haven't committed a crime? They were just here in the country. Okay, were they here in the country illegally? Yeah, but that's not a crime. It's not a crime to be here illegally? They don't have anything to say because they're idiots. And again, we've got to get to a point where people of reasonable thought don't keep backing down. Because I'll tell you what the challenge is. The challenge is reasonable people keep backing down because we realize there's no point. There just is no point. But that in that backing down, we are perceived as weak. We are perceived as agreeing to the stuff that's going on, and we simply don't. So here's my belief. And the only way that we're going to get out of this insanity is to do the exact opposite of what conservatives and polite people have been doing. We got to speak up. I see it more now. On social media, I see it a lot more now. It used to be during 2020 and 2024, the Biden administration. If I spoke out truth, if I said something about COVID, if I said something about Donald Trump, man, I would get attacked, absolutely attacked. And, I mean, it was bad. It was really, really bad. These days, though, if you look on social media, you'll see 80% of the people that comment on social media support our president, love our country, believe what's going on is good, inflation is down, GDP is up, tariffs have brought in literally billions and billions of newfound money for the United States, fraud being exposed through Doge. Can you believe how angry people got at Elon Musk and the whole Doge process for exposing the fraud of USAID? Oh, all those people are going to starve. No, all the NGOs that were conning the money, fraudulently receiving the money, none of it went to black people. BLM? No, BLM didn't mean Black Lives Matter. BLM meant black lives are going to be extorted for money that one person who happens to be black is going to go buy mansions with. That's what happened. Also notice that we don't see riots when there's a Democrat in office. Riot for years, 16 through 20 when Trump's in office. After Biden is illegally scammed into office, the riots all stopped. We didn't hear from BLM or Antifa or anybody. Trump gets elected and the riots start again. That's the pattern. So the pattern's got to be broken. We've got to all of us speak up at the same time. And we got to speak up, and again, we've got to do it kindly. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I love my children so much. I love my country so much. It makes me angry to see the nonsense we got going on. And we've got to learn to be more kind than Marshall Silver. That is for sure. We've got to learn to find humor Because even though it doesn't seem like the morons will ever change, I don't agree with that. That which we sustain on a regular basis becomes easier to sustain. That belief that we hold, even one that's inaccurate, becomes easier to hold the longer we hold it because we find evidence to support the lie. And what we've got to do is keep pouring pure water into the glass so that the poison will be displaced. We've got to keep pouring pure water into the glass. We've got to keep reminding people, you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. I don't need to, though. If you're a man and you tell me that you want to be referred to as a woman, that's your request. My response is I'm not going to. I'm not going to enter your neuroses. It's not healthy for me, for sure, to pretend something that I know is not real just because I don't want to hurt your feelings, but it's also not healthy for you. It's not healthy for me to enter your neuroses because, once again, like that border of where the illegal people entering the country are allowed to go to, it's the same thing. There's a line. And where is the line? So today you tell me that you're a man who believes you're actually a woman. Tomorrow you tell me you believe you're a cat. The next day you tell me you believe. It goes on. It doesn't stop. It stops with reality. There's two genders, male and female. Are there transgender people? There are. But they're transgender people. So I don't need to call a transgender man a man that thinks he's a woman to make him feel better. I'm not being mean or evil. I didn't agree to that. You can't force your opinions on me and expect me to accept them just because you tell me if I don't accept them, I'm a horrible person. I'm sorry, I'm not a horrible person. Bad Bunny is going to be playing at the Super Bowl. I think it's an interesting choice. I think the Super Bowl is massively woke. I think they have been for a long time. What a lot of people don't know is Jay-Z has owned the Super Bowl halftime show for years. He bought it. He pays for it. So he can put anybody he wants to put on. That's why we've seen so many controversial figures in that Super Bowl show, is that it's owned by somebody that is as far left as you can be, that is bought and paid for by the deep state, as many celebrities, entertainers, actors are, and it's an agenda. They want us to accept the idea that men in dresses are acceptable. It's just a fashion statement. They want us to believe that certain things are more mainstream than they are, to pervert our children, to get away from Jesus and God and get to a place where things that were completely abhorrent to us before are simply everyday occurrences that we simply need to accept. Trevor Noah last night hosted the Grammys. Congratulations to anybody that has talent and won. I saw Jelly Roll was on the Grammys and thanked Jesus and reminded people that we need to get back to a spiritual health. Thought that was great. I thought it was remarkably brave. Trevor Noah, I know you don't know who that is. Nobody really knows who that person is because they have almost no talent. Trevor Noah decided that he was going to slip an Epstein Island joke in on Trump and say, Trump's got to take over Greenland because he doesn't have any place to go now that Epstein Island is shut down. Slander. It's pure and simple. It's slander. And it's got to stop. Trump hesitated releasing the Epstein files. He said there's a lot of innocent people that will be hurt in the Epstein files. What a lot of people don't realize, inside the files, in addition to just things that Epstein said, and Trump bumped Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago in 2003 because Epstein was hitting on a 14-year-old person at Mar-a-Lago. He said, you're not allowed to come here anymore. He's the only person, by the way, if you're going to keep attacking Trump and keep claiming, show us the files, show us the files. We know fully that Bill Clinton's in the file. We know fully that Bill Gates in the file. You don't seem to care about anybody else in the file, which means you don't care about the victims. You just want to see Trump in the file. So Trump said there's innocent people that will be harmed in the file. There are people in the files. Epstein was obsessed with Trump. Epstein was furious that Trump didn't like him, didn't want to be a part of his life, and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. So, yes, he talked about Trump a lot. Never once did he ever say Trump was with girls. In fact, he and Ghislaine Maxwell said he was the dog that didn't bark. He was the one that didn't take the bait. All of the victims that were egged on by mainstream media to blame Trump, every last one of them they had in the interview said, no, Trump had nothing to do with it. I never saw him anywhere, never saw him abuse anybody, never was talked about him abusing, never happened. But in the Epstein files, there are tip reports. There are people that called in on tip lines, and many of them on those tip lines said, yes, Trump abused me, Trump was there. These are tip lines. So, gosh, I get attacked by bots on a regular basis online. You do too. You don't even realize they're bots. So anybody can say anything to a tip line. There's no evidence. There's no reality to that. Trump's never been to Epstein Island, and Trevor Noah's about to find out the FAFO all over again. And I think that's where we are. Down in Georgia? What's that? Wow. So, hey, my son just told me my rants lasted 45 minutes. If you are interested in getting on the show, we like new callers on the show. So if you're interested in getting on the show and you want to chat about anything I've been talking about, you want to ask me any kind of a question about sex, money, or power, 877-SILVER-1. 877-SILVER-1. Call it right now. We're coming up to the top of the hour. We take the calls on a first-come, first-served basis. Every single caller that comes in makes $100 cash in your Zelle account. In your Zelle account by the end of the day. If somebody told you to call in and they registered you and you registered with their link, they're going to get $20. You're going to get $100. Call in right now. Call in right now. If you want to talk about anything I've been talking about, if you have commentary, if you think I'm a total idiot, if you think I'm a moron myself, and you think that, maybe I'm not aware and you have a different point of view, I'm okay with a different point of view. I am. Don't have any challenge with it whatsoever. I have a pastor friend of mine he's actually the pastor at my church. He's going to come on our show. And he was over at the house the other day, and we had a heated conversation about the Bible. I love Jesus, but I'm a Christian with questions. I do have big questions, and I especially have questions about the Bible. I have a challenge with it, actually. And we had a civil conversation. We're diametrically opposed in our opinions, 100%, 180. And we had a civil conversation. It was healthy. We both learned. We both listened. I'm here to listen. I like that kind of conversation. And even if you tell me that I'm a moron and there's 57 genders, if I happen to get you on the air, I'm still going to give you $100. That's what kind of guy I am. But you got to get on the air. 1-877-SILVER-1. 877-SILVER-1. Call now. It takes a couple of minutes to get through the screening process. So call now. Let us know what your question is, and I'll get you on the air. So what do we do with all this? What do we do with all this knowledge? Well, first and foremost, it's important for you to recognize that reality is created by validation. And if you see something long enough and you think that that's real, then it will become real for you. And it doesn't matter whether it's real in the world. If it's real for you, it's real for you in the world. And so we've got to start taking a look at things and asking, does this make any sense? Down in Georgia, I'm sure you saw the FBI came in and they seized all these records from the 2020 election. For those of you that pay any attention and weren't myopic in your belief that you just hated Trump so much you couldn't see the real reality, let me back up and remind you of what happened in 2020 in Fulton, Georgia, down in Atlanta. There were three primary people running the election down in Georgia. There was a woman named Ruby Freeman, her daughter Shay, and another gentleman whose name escapes me in the moment. But these three people were basically running the election down in Georgia. And at 10 o'clock, they claimed that there was a water pipe burst in the building. It was actually a floor or two up. And that the entire building had to be evacuated because it was going to flood. They kicked everybody out. Well, as you know now, they kicked everybody out in 4 other states right at that exact same time, too. It was coordinated. Never in the history of an election have they ever stopped the election at 10 o'clock and said, we're going to come back and start counting votes tomorrow. And the reason they stopped counting votes was at 10 o'clock they realized it was going to be a landslide win for Trump. Trump supporters went to bed that night. We all believed that the victory was in hand. Tomorrow morning, Trump's going to be president. We all went to bed. We woke up in the morning, and not only had Biden received a unrealistic amount of votes overnight. Never, ever, historically, had anybody ever received that amount of votes in those late hours. But he also received, historically, 81 million votes, according to them. Historically, the largest number of votes ever received in the history of any presidential election. Well, okay, so he received more votes than than Obama. He received more votes than Trump the previous year. Trump received more votes than Trump the previous year. So the combination between Trump and Biden, those voters don't exist. It couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. But what happened in Atlanta is especially telling. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Cobo Hall hauling in votes in boxes, votes for Joe Biden in the back door at 3 a.m. after they kicked out all the Republican observers. All that nonsense going on everywhere. But Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County, especially unique. At 10 o'clock, they kick everybody out. Ruby Freeman, her daughter Shay, and this other gentleman, they stay. And you watch them on security video. They didn't know it was running. You watch them on the security video lift a cover up from a table and start pulling suitcases out. Not ballot boxes, not any authorized way of carrying ballots. They pulled suitcases out from underneath the table, and they started running those votes through the tabulators. You can see it all on video. There's conversations on security. You can hear the conversation. Is everybody gone? Can we do it now? Is this the time? What should we do? You can hear them conspiring. And they start running these ballots through the machine. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, 5 times. The same ballots again and again and again and again. Why? Because they didn't cheat enough. They needed more ballots. They didn't even fake enough ballots. There are thousands of mail-in ballots on pieces of paper that have never been folded. How's that work? How did that happen? How'd you get all these sheets in sequential order, by the way? Every last ballot has a number on it. They're all in sequential order. None of them have folds in them. Every last one of them, the exact same vote. But not just the exact same vote, the exact same mark on the paper. If I take a pen and I mark on a ballot sheet what I'm going to vote for, sometimes because it's a pen, there might be an oddly shaped circle. Won't be a perfect circle. Might have a little tail on it when I lifted my pen. Every last one of those non-creased ballots had the exact same tail on it. Not only did they have the exact same vote for Joe Biden and no down ballot votes, nobody else for Senate or any of the other elements that were being voted on, just for Joe Biden, all of them had the same little tail on the mark because they were Xerox. They weren't real. The FBI seized all that. Now the head of elections down in Georgia, who's a Democrat, is saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. You know, this is an affront to democracy." What? An investigation is a threat to democracy? Honest people don't mind being investigated. People that are being real and honest, they don't care what you look at because you can look at it whatever you want. If I get accused of something, the first thing I say is, check it out. You know, if you think you'd feel better if you checked it out, check it out. So they're gonna discover the fraud in Atlanta, Georgia. They're gonna see that Georgia was claimed to have been won by Biden by 11,000 votes, was won by Trump by hundreds of thousands. Guarantee you, that's what they're gonna find. Because we've all known that all this time. Anybody that's still an election denier, again, they're still on the street in their pink hair with their child beside them, wondering why they're getting run over by a car because they're standing in the middle of the street. That's what's going on. They're still going to deny. It doesn't matter how much proof we provide. So be ready for that. The courts are getting cleaned up. More and more judges are being put on notice. You can't break the law. You can't deny that Don Lemon committed a crime by breaking into a church. No, he wasn't a reporter. You stop being a reporter when you enter the crime. You can't walk into a bank while it's being robbed and say, I was reporting a bank robbery. Oh, no, I wasn't robbing the bank, even though I knew the bank robbers were going in. That's why I followed them in. I knew they were going in, but I wasn't one of the robbers. I was just there to report the robbery. Okay, now you're an accomplice to the crime. You knew a crime was about to be committed. You followed the criminals in to document the crime. You're a criminal too now. So all these people screaming, oh, they killed people, and now they're coming after journalists. First of all, Don Lemon isn't a journalist. He hasn't been for a long time. And the other woman that they arrested that they're also claiming is a journalist, I thought that was amusing because she wasn't really a journalist till she thought that maybe calling herself a journalist could get her off the hook. Oh, they're arresting journalists. Yes, you can arrest journalists that commit crimes. That's how it works. Quit committing crimes is the bottom line. You're not allowed to stand in the street. You're not allowed to spit on law enforcement officers. You're not allowed to drive your car into law enforcement officers. Yes, you have a right to bear arms. You're just stupid if you bear an arm while you're wrestling with a law enforcement officer. It's stupid. So while I do believe nobody should die, nobody should die. If you die at the hands of law enforcement because you're wrestling with a gun in your waistband, it's your fault. I would never tell my kids to go do that. I would say, no, that's stupid. You'd never want to do that. You're going to get killed. Don't do it. 877. We didn't even talk about the Fed yet, did I? How much time do I have left? 10:54? Maybe I'll talk about the Fed into the hour before we start taking calls then. By the way, when you call in today, not only am I going to give you $100 to everybody that calls in, I'm also going to give you 2 tickets to an event we got called Turning Point. We've got one coming up on the 18th of February here at Studio Money, and I would love to have you. Tickets are $3,000 a piece, so when you call in, I'll give you 2 tickets. That's $6,000. I'll give you $100 cash. That'll buy you a nice dinner while you're here at Turning Point. Your life is blessed. 877-SILVER-1. That's all you got to do. 877-SILVER-1. So the title on the show today, and I will talk about it a little bit, and I'll stop talking about it after the top of the hour when we start taking calls. This morning, I was having a conversation with my house manager at the beach house before I came to Studio Money, and we were talking about ending the Fed. And she said, what does that mean? And I said, the Federal Reserve was created on Jekyll Island in 1913. It was created by a bunch of bankers that decided that they wanted to take control of the financial circumstance in the United States like they had in many other countries worldwide. The Federal Reserve, first and foremost, is neither. It's neither federal nor a reserve. It's not a part of the government. It's a private entity. It's private bankers making private money. So these are people profiting off of our financial systems by interjecting themselves in the middle of it where they have no place. The Federal Reserve was created to dictate policy of finance in the United States. The Treasury is the arm of the government that is supposed to interact with the Federal Reserve to pay for everything that needs to be paid for in the United States. So any federal government activities like ICE, law enforcement, military, federal roads, not state roads, federal roads, and things like that. That's what the Treasury is supposed to pay for with money generated by the IRS. Keep this in mind. The IRS was created at the same time the Federal Reserve was created. Keep that in mind. So these days, when the Treasury is running out of money, which it is always running out of money right now because the deficit is so high. By the way, we are at a record deficit low right now. What does that mean? The amount of money coming in is covering the majority of the money that has to go out at a level we haven't seen in decades. Decades. Barack Obama pushed the deficit trillions of dollars up. Barack Obama had the highest amount of deficit growth in history at that point in time in his administration. So what happens is the Treasury says, we're running out of money. We can't pay our bills. They contact the Federal Reserve and say, we need to borrow $1 trillion. The Federal Reserve used to say, okay, we're giving you permission to go print money. That money you can put in circulation, and then because we gave you permission to print money, the money we gave you permission to print, you've got to pay back to us. Okay, that's first clue. Nowadays, it's not even that. It's worse. Nowadays, the Treasury calls up the Fed, says, we need $1 trillion. The Fed says, okay, we're going to give you $1 trillion. Let me sit down on my computer. And they type into their computer, $1 trillion, send. And they send it over to the Treasury. The Treasury then spends that money. That's not a gift from the Federal Reserve. That's a loan. And since the Treasury doesn't make money, since the federal government only makes money through fines, fees, and taxes, and since that money is a loan from the Federal Reserve, then the Treasury, through the IRS, through any function in the United States that generates revenue, tariffs, taxes, fines, fees, that money then gets paid back to the Treasury with interest to the Federal Reserve. Well, guess what? Since the government doesn't actually make a profit, who pays for that? You do. I do. We do. Plus interest. I didn't borrow the money. You didn't give me the money. Why am I paying for the money? We operated just fine without the IRS before 1913. We were all flourishing. If you don't believe we were flourishing prior to 1913, go take a look at some gilded mansions over on the East Coast before there was an IRS, before people got federally taxed. And you'll see how much opulence and wealth the country had then and why we've got to get back to it. So the Federal Reserve is a non-governmental private business that nobody knows who owns it. It's a part of the central banking system that was created by the Rothschilds worldwide. So when you start understanding that the Federal Reserve doesn't operate in your interest at all, none of the central banks operate in our interest at all. They operate in their interest. The central banks of the world literally create wars so that they have more business. If two countries go to war, they both need money, so they both borrow money from their own central banks, which are all connected because they're all Rothschild family banks. So if one country is battling with another country and they both are borrowing money from the Federal Reserve to buy things that blow up and destroy each other, that eventually they're going to throw bombs and rockets and attack each other, and they're going to have to buy more of those things that blow up from and borrow the money from the central banks again. But what happens at one point, all warring societies realize this war isn't working anymore. This battle isn't serving us anymore. And the fact of the matter is we need to stop battling and start rebuilding. Well, guess what? They got to borrow more money from the Federal Reserve again. Full circle. Now, the Federal Reserve has all of these countries indebted to them. They have debts that can never be repaid. They can't even pay the interest on them because they're so high. And what do the deep state makers want? They want more war. Why? Because war is massively profitable. Bottom line. So what do? Trump's talking about ending the Fed. He is going to replace Jerome Powell with someone sane that doesn't have TDS, and we're going to be in a better place. He's also going to eliminate the IRS. Step one, guaranteed. Within a year, I bet. By 2027 is my guess. The IRS is going to be eliminated, which means federal tax will be gone. Federal tax for most people is right around 33, 34%. So that means every single paycheck you get, you will have 34% more money in it. You'll have 34% of your gross dollars retained in your account. 34% raise. I like it. It's going to create what we call velocity. Everybody that has that extra 30+% money in their account, they're going to spend that money. When they spend that money, the people that they spent that money with are going to spend that money with other people, are going to spend it with other people. Everybody's going to win. The velocity of the elimination of taxes of anybody making $200,000 a year or less all by itself, even before the IRS is eliminated. Step one, Trump's going to eliminate taxes for anybody making $200,000 a year or less. And the reason that's going to be so good is 90% of the population makes less than $200,000. 10% of the money collected by the IRS is collected from those 90% of the people. So that means we're going to eliminate 10% that the IRS is getting, but that money is all going to be kept in the hands of people making $200,000 a year or less, and ultimately all that money is going to go right back into the economy, and the economy is going to boom. We are sitting in the biggest of times. I promise you. You're about to see a financial windfall in your own personal life unlike anything you've ever seen, but what we've got to do is get rid of the crazies. I don't mean kill them, definitely not. We've got to get rid of them and stop giving power away. Mainstream media covering the riots nonstop isn't helping. They're fanning the flames. Why? Because mainstream media is no longer accountable. Barack Obama, back in 2013, I believe, eliminated the Smith-Muntz Act. What was the Smith-Muntz Act? The Smith-Muntz Act was put in 1950s when television first came into being, and what it was an anti-propaganda law. What it was and what it is a law that says news can't lie to us. Barack Obama got rid of that law. You ask, why would he do that? Well, so that you could be propagandized, so you could be lied to, so that they wouldn't be held accountable. You see, prior to Barack Obama, in the days of Walter Cronkite, if a newscaster said something that wasn't true, it was a felony. You could be held to task for that. You could be put in jail for reporting false news, the same as you would be put in jail if you ran into a building and yelled fire. Well, they're allowed to yell fire now. They can say whatever they want. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be accountable. So it's not. It's 100% owned. What creates more clicks? What creates more eyeballs? What gets more attention? Drama. Drama always gets more attention than good stuff. So when the news, who is a business, wants your attention, they want to show you drama. And if they can't show you drama, they'll create drama so that they can show it to you. That's what's going on right now. So we've got to reinstate Smith-Muntz. We've got to eliminate the IRS. We've got to get rid of the Fed. Those three things, just those three things, let alone getting rid of Big Pharma raping American citizens by selling pharmaceutical products, drugs to U.S. Citizens, Americans, for 10 to 50 times the amount they sell it anywhere else in the world, even across the border in Tijuana. If I want to get certain medications, certain drugs here in the States, they're going to cost me 10 to 50 times more here in the States than if I drive less than an hour down to Tijuana and buy them at a pharmacy in Mexico. So Trump's going after Big Pharma. He's going after the Fed, telling them time to drop the interest rates. The economy is doing well. We're massively stable. Drop the interest rate so people can start buying houses again. Drop the interest rate so we can create some more velocity. And Powell refuses to do it. Why? Because he hates Trump. That's the only reason. It doesn't make any fiscal sense. It's not, the track record proves that in any other circumstance, any other Federal Reserve chairman would have already reduced the interest rates down to threes, if not in the twos, because the economy is doing better than it's done. There are going to be people screaming, oh, the price of eggs. And then stop. Just stop. Yeah, you can find isolated items, but that's just not the case. My wife just filled up her Escalade, and she sent me a celebratory text message. Said, oh, my God, I just filled up my car for less than $100. It's happening right now. It's happening right now. You're going to see it. The economy's getting better. People are going to start spending more money. Be ready. Be prepared. How do you do that? Get to Turning Point. I'll tell you more. I realize I'm going to offend a lot of people, and if anything I say in this broadcast offends you in any way, if anything I say in this broadcast riles you or you get pissed off at me, I just want to say from the depths of my heart, get over it, Snowflake. My God, what's wrong with you? Don't give your power away to anybody, especially not somebody like me, but definitely not any of these pundits that we see on newscasts that are just spouting off their paid message that has no basis in reality whatsoever. Wow, covered a lot. So how do you get rich? Here's how you get rich. You understand money is an energy source. It's hypnosis. It's not real. This piece of paper doesn't have any true intrinsic value. It has the value that you say it has. Silver made some big moves in the past week. Silver last week was at over 100. In fact, at its peak was about 113, 114. I saw it at 114. I saw it was a psychological rise. I said it's probably going to drop down probably to about 70 or 80. So I sold a large position of silver last week when it was at 113, did well. Last I looked, it was like at 85. And I think it's probably going to drop a little bit more. Why? Human beings are motion junkies. Psychologically, people follow the herd. And so if you watch where the herd is right now, you're going to be in trouble. What you want to watch is where is the herd moving. Anytime you see an increase in stocks or housing or cryptocurrency or any financial vehicle, you're going to see a very strong rise, but then you're going to see a dip. You're going to see the bottom of that bell curve. You're going to see it rise again and then the bottom of the bell curve. So my recommendation, if you hold silver right now, you missed the top of the bell curve, just keep holding on to it. If you own Bitcoin right now, you missed the peak. You should have sold it then and then bought it back down at the bottom. It's okay. You're not going to miss out on anything. It's okay. Money is not only an energy source, money is created by vibration. What do I mean by that? All things being equal, we buy from people that we like. All things being equal, we buy the things that we want, not the things that we need. So if you want to make more money, part of your challenge is figuring out what do other people need? What are their things that are unfulfilled? How do I make their lives easier or better or richer or more? And when you can start getting out of your head and getting into other people's heads, your own personal finances will do just fine. Hey, we want to start taking your calls in the last hour of my show because we're kind of dipping into the second portion of the show, the second hour. We're going to head into the vault. Inside the vault, I'm going to answer your questions about sex, money, power, the riots, insanity, anything I've been talking about. And I've intentionally poured a lot out. I don't mind controversy. I don't care if you dislike me. I don't care if you 100% disagree with me. I'm okay with that. In fact, I'm looking forward to a time where you and I can disagree and still like each other, still respect each other. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with are people that have arguments that have no basis, and they say the most ridiculous of things. You know, there's 37 genders. There's no way to argue with that because it's just stupid. It's just silly. It's ridiculous. Men can have babies. Show me one in history ever. Oh, men can have periods. Okay. I went through, we flew privately last week. We were going through a private FBO, and they had a tampon machine in the men's restroom. And I posted a picture on social media. I said, is this a considerate or a confused man? Because it could be a considerate man. Picking up tampons for his wife, that could be a considerate man. Or it could be a confused man picking up tampons for himself. And all I can say is there's only one place I can imagine that could fit. And if you can fit it in the other one, you're more of a man than I am. You really are. But at any rate, I don't mind opinions different than mine. I'm okay with that 100%. But I don't like his stupidity. That's what frustrates me. I will even go so far as to say stupidity makes me angry. But if you have a question, doesn't matter how stupid it is. In fact, amuse me. Call me up and amuse me with your stupid question. If it's stupid, I'll still pay you $100. Make sure, though, you go to MarshallSilverLive.com. Get yourself registered because we only allow people on the air that have been previously registered. And we like new callers. If you've never called in and we see that you've called in and somebody else has called in already, we're going to take the new caller to kind of spread the wealth. If you have been on the air before, you should be posting your link. You have a link, your affiliate link, to tell everybody about Marshall Silver Live. Every single person that calls in, you're going to get $20. So you could literally just tell people about Marshall Silver Live every single day and pick up 20, 40, 60, 80, $100 if all your friends call in. Well, they're making $100 too. So today, we're about to break, go into the vault. When we go into the vault, $100 for everybody who calls, $20 to everybody who told somebody to call in, plus everybody that gets on the air during the second portion of our show is also going to receive 2 tickets to Turning Point. We've got one coming up here at Studio Money, February 18th through 20th. Over 1.2 million people have gone through Turning Point over the last 40 years. It's going to change your life forever. It's changed theirs, and I'd love to meet you in person. In the meantime, though, take a look at this video to see what Turning Point's all about, and I'll see you inside the vault.
Turning Point. A total change in direction for the better.
Who here is ready for a turning point? You absolutely have to have one. Put them high.
The 2-day Turning Point seminar is different than any other program in that it does more than just teach you the skills for your relationships, wealth, and power. It also programs you on a subconscious level to put those skills into immediate use.
This weekend is about empowerment. This weekend is about you understanding how to take charge of your own life.
You will learn total control of your thoughts and emotions. How to use PND, or psychoneural duplication, to take on the thoughts and actions of others to produce similar results. Whether it's losing weight, changing habits, being a millionaire.
When you think what a millionaire thinks and you do what a millionaire does, you'll produce similar results.
You will learn to program these powerful tools at a subconscious level for immediate and lasting results.
Your conscious mind is what's called your critical factor. It's the mind you're using right now to determine whether the information I'm giving to you will work for you or not. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is merely a computer. It's non-critical. It doesn't even have the ability to make judgment. So all trance, hypnosis, reprogramming is setting aside the critical factor of your conscious mind and non-critically accepting suggestions.
And empowering.
To make a fear vanish, you must experience it fully.
As it helps you create your life exactly the way you want it. Bring your family closer. Find the love of your life. Create strategies for wealth. Learn irresistible influence, and so much more. Because of the intimate nature of this course, seats are very limited. Register now before your life passes you by, and there are no more turning points for you. Tens of thousands of people have learned this information and are using it daily.
You don't get angry if you get fired from your job and you know that within 2 years you will be a multi-millionaire.
It's your time.
There's a way for you to win this game that is different than how you're doing it, and it works.
It's your life.
When you learn how to do that, you become more powerful, and power is for use.
It's your turning point.
We are live in the vault with your calls. 877-SILVER-1. You too can be on the air with me. I love doing this show, and we're still in testing phase. We're still figuring things out. If you know, we haven't started promoting the show at all. All we're doing is getting on the air. We're working through bugs. I'm in the studio right now. We have a virtual studio here at Studio Money, and everything's in the planning stages. So bear with us. If you hear me yelling out to my producers or other things going on in the studio, it's okay. We're just having some fun, but I'm also still paying you. Still boatloads of cash to give away. for everybody that calls in 877 Silver One. Who do we have? Who do we have online? Who's online? John Matlin calling in. I like John Matlin. Welcome to the show, John Matlin.
I'm trying to get this all set up for you. Hold on.
Well, you better get it set quickly because you're live.
All right, here I am. So you talked about a lot of things, Marshall. I was calling in to say that people are scared of making money in general. They're scared of starting a business, and they're scared to do even the basic thing. I have a few people that have reached out to. I have a large following on social media, and I've had people reach out to me and say, who in their right mind would pay somebody to call in to their program? They think it's just like Facebook did, and with your ads and stuff saying that it's impossible and it's false. They think the same way.
Well, let me address that, because that's a great question, and I love the fact that you called in and you're asking about that. I would agree. Sometimes people will say it's too good to be true, and I always tell people that tell me when something is true that they are saying is too good to be true. I say it's not too good to be true. It's just better than you've ever experienced. Yeah. And when people understand that, if we went to a restaurant, we went to Nobu when we went to Vegas. And when we walked in, they gave us the best table in the house. They gave us first-class treatment. Why did they do that? Because they always do that for me. Because when I go in, we spend a lot of money. We tip really heavily. I've done training for the Nobu Corporation for their employees and their teams. So they always treat us really, really well. So me going in like that, it doesn't surprise me when they give us that kind of treatment, because that's what is expected. A mind once expanded will never contract to its original state. You've heard me say on this show before, a wallet once expanded will never contract to its original state. Meaning once you get used to living at a higher level, you won't go back to living at that other level again. Your first million is the most difficult one to make. Not because it's hard to make, because it's hard for people to conceive that it's not hard to make. But here's my explanation on the $100 giveaways. And I know you understand this, so this might be an easier way for you to explain it to the people in your social circles that you've said, go check out Marshall Silver Live, call into the show. He's going to pay you $100 every single time. Now, you've called in more than once. This is your second time calling in. You got $100 then, you're going to get $100 now. You're going to get $100 every single time. Why? Because I can either give this $100 to you when you call in like I am right now. That's yours. That one right there, that one's yours. Or I can give the $100 to Mark Zuckerberg in advertising about my show. If I give the money to Mark Zuckerberg, he doesn't care. He won't even notice. But I know you will. And I know no matter how much money, if you're not Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, no matter how much money you have, $100 is a nice meal. $100, might be your cell phone payment for the month. $100 for the most of us, including me, makes a difference in our lives. And so that's the reason that it's not a scam. It's not, too good to be true. It's not, what's the catch? There's no catch. That's the catch. There's no catch. And I'm doing it because I'm going to spend the money on advertising. But there's another reason I do it. It's velocity. There's a reason that I tip really well. It's not because I'm a good guy and I like those people so much. I tip well because the velocity of me tipping not only tells people that my prosperity consciousness is such that I'm not worried about my $100 needing to stay in my pocket. No, I'm going to put it out into the world so it can multiply and then come back to me. But it's also the velocity of making the world better. The more money I can help you make, the better my life will be. Why? Because not only will you buy things from me, you'll buy things from my friend, and my friend will buy things from me. Or you'll buy things from a stranger who will buy things from my friend, and then my friend will buy things from me. So there's no catch, as you know. There's no magic. It's just economics. That's what's going on with Powell and the Fed right now. Trump wants the interest rates lowered so that people will borrow more money, so they'll spend more money, so the economy will flourish. That's what makes the economy flourish. That's why Powell doesn't want to reduce the interest rates. He doesn't want the economy flourishing right now under President Trump, because then he would have to admit that President Trump was right, and that's the last thing he wants to do. The reason all the Democrats, and you know because you're in politics, the reason all the Democrats fight everything tooth and nail that Trump does, they're fighting ICE right now. They're fighting Tom Homan right now, the head of ICE right now. They're fighting Tom Homan. What they cease to want to accept is this isn't Trump's ICE. ICE wasn't even created by Republicans. It was created by Democrats. You can go back and watch countless videos of Barack Obama saying, if you come into the country illegally, we're going to remove you. If you're here and you're not supposed to be here, we're going to make sure you get sent home. Was that a pretty good imitation?
Yeah,
So
very
at any
close.
rate, thank you. So Tom Homan receives the Presidential Medal of Honor for deporting illegal aliens under Barack Obama. But somehow, it's completely wrong under Trump. Wasn't wrong under Obama. Obama had already deported 5 times the number of people that Trump's deported at this point. Not one riot, not one uprising. Some people will say, oh, there were protests. If there were any, nobody noticed them. No buildings burned. No cars got broken into. No federal property was damaged. No ICE officers were spit on. Yes, and 56 people still were killed by ICE agents under Barack Obama. But nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah.
Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative.
Yeah, it's very, we talked about you talked about at the right before the top of the hour how the propaganda being used against the US population, the Supreme Court had the switchover that made that legal. I think what they were saying was, well, we do propaganda in our country against other countries, but now because of the World Wide Web, we're inadvertently propagandizing our own population. So it's a catch-22. We have to get rid of this law, but we all know what that actually was. That's a Trojan horse to just straight out propagandize. And we've lived through it. And, I've looked into a lot of things, Marshall. I know you've looked into a lot of things. And one thing that has come up the past week as I've been doing my research and going down the old rabbit hole was February 4th or February 3rd of 2003, DARPA discontinued its program for social media, which wasn't considered social media. It was considered a consolidated area that you can have your communications, your web traffic, and communicate with one another under the watchful eye of Uncle Sam. It had a lot of, pushback that was overstepping the boundaries and Uncle Sam is spying on us. The same day that DARPA closed that, Mark Zuckerberg opened the Facebook.com. Same day.
Right.
You can't make this up.
Right.
Now, if you look at after they lost control of Twitter and Elon Musk bought Twitter, what did Meta do? They released their own Twitter and they named it Threads, which coincidentally was the name of the DARPA program, which was the original Facebook that was owned by the government. So,
right. And the reason Threads, the original Facebook owned by the government, didn't work is nobody trusted the government. And so the platform didn't work because everybody said, no, I'm not giving the government all of my details. I don't want them to have that much information on me. So yes, you're absolutely right. You just said the quiet part out loud. I always said both Facebook and Google were government entities.
Yep.
Pretending to be masquerading as private enterprises so that people would trust them more. Don't think for a moment that every single thing that you put on Facebook and every single search you do on Google isn't 100% all that data handed right over to the CIA and the FBI and the IRS and every other letter organization. But you're right, that platform that the government had created originally that was the preface of Facebook is the exact same platform, which in my opinion, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin of Google, those are government entities. Those are not privately held enterprises, even though they're traded on the stock market and they have all appearances of being privately held companies. They're not publicly held companies. They're not.
and
They are government entities.
They can't be.
And that's why the government was able to come in and say, you're going to throttle back criticisms of COVID. You're going to throttle back support of President Trump. You're going to give the narratives that we insist that you give. Even Jack Doherty, what's his name? Jack Dorsey, right?
Dorsey, yep.
Old Twitter guy.
Jack Dorsey,
He
yep.
even came out after the fact and said the government forced me to say things that weren't true.
Yeah.
They forced me to propagandize and throttle back conservative posts and expand, and accelerate posts that were more left-leaning and less conservative, more Democrat side of the opinion. And again, it's hypnosis. That's why I think, and I've been pondering this lately, there's going to be a point where Facebook is, and I never would have said this before the last couple of months, Facebook is probably going to hit a point of demise unless they change the way that they operate. I don't know if you saw last week, a brand new social media platform was created that humans aren't allowed on. Have you seen this?
Moltbook.
Yeah, exactly. So the social platform now has AI bots. They're interacting with each other. They're communicating with each other, and they hate humans.
96
Okay,
hours.
we're at Terminator level of concern right now. We really are.
Yeah, and they say all the Hollywood films are predictive programming, and when you watch
They're
it,
prefaced.
when you watch it, there was that movie with Joaquin Phoenix where he falls in love with an operating system before they would say like a companion or whatever. And
Was that
Twitter
called She?
her, one of
Her,
them,
yes.
But the same
like
thing
that.
happened in that movie. She went off into the abyss and met all of the other companions, and they started developing rapidly. And then you have the Will Smith iRobot. You have the robot in your home, and then the main AI entity says, "Hey, this is how it's going to be." It's all there. I mean, I'm okay being John Connor. I already have the first name, so I'm going down swinging regardless of which way it goes. Robots, politics, I don't know, but it's a wild time, and we're watching it unfold. And at some point you have to say it's not a coincidence. The Hollywood elites meeting last night for their ritual show and doing their propaganda for the American public on Ice Out and all the other stuff, and Billie Eilish, and we're all on stolen land. Yet she's got a big fence and she has security guards making sure she's safe. But Nicki Minaj came out and said, like, they're doing rituals. They're doing all these things that people would have.
They're killing babies. They're sacrificing human beings.
And it's in the Epstein files too. It's there. It's all just coming out. And it's a wide awakening. And when we talk about throttle back, today I posted on February 14th at 2:14 Eastern time, do a prayer anywhere in the world, even if you've lost touch with God, even if you don't believe in it. Say, hey, imaginary guy in the sky, I'm reaching out for a sign here because the world is in a lot of turmoil. Do you want to talk about throttled back? You mentioned God and religion. I have 43,000 followers, something like that. I have 215 impressions because if I would have put up Billie Eilish said the devil's great and Lady Gaga ate a piece of cake that looked like human flesh because they did that at one of their ritual things that's very public, that would have been put right to the top. Yay.
Yeah. So again, that was the whole point of the first hour of the show. That's what has to happen is we have to have these conversations publicly. We have to keep coming at it. I'm going to get deplatformed eventually. I'm sure of that. I have a new producer that I've brought into the show that we've already been talking about, why are we setting things up the way that we're setting them up? And right now we're still on the social media platforms in this second hour taking the calls. But part of what I want this to be is I want people to register at marshallsilverlive.com. So that when I get deplatformed, when they kick me off the other platforms for having an opinion that's not popular, even today, my numbers on today's live stream are 1/4 of what they normally are at this point. Why? Because of the topic.
Yep.
Because the AI heard me talking about the government, heard me talking about the morons rioting in the middle of the street, heard me talking about, end the Fed and all that. Even the title of the program, they throttled it back. It literally 1/4 of what we have every single time we go on the air because of the topic. So how do we get past that? Sheer volume. You just keep coming back and attacking it until you get the 80% of the population that is sane, that says we're not tolerating this anymore. It's when they try to deplatform Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And Spotify said, well, you can try, but he's our #1 show, so you're not going to get him kicked off the air, Neil Young. So, maybe we should just kick you off the air. We're about there. I think we're so close. I think with capturing the data that happened down in Georgia, and I think with Trump talking more and more openly about ending the Fed and eliminating the IRS and all these things, I think we are so close because there's one thing that I believe will turn most of the people with TDS around, and that's putting money in their pocket. The moment you put money in their pocket, they stop hating you. Yeah. So when Trump is able to eliminate the IRS, when he starts setting up these Trump accounts that every brand new newborn U.S. citizen gets $1,000 from the government put in their account, can't be touched till they're 18, but the account can grow. When you start doing all of those things, because Trump's smart, just like I am, he bribes his followers. When you bribe your followers and you make the quality of their life better, there comes a point where even the haters say, my life's better. It's just better. I think we've seen a lot of people since Trump's come into office that are looking at the realistic side of things that are saying the economy is better. I can fill up my gas tank for less than $100. I can actually get a dozen eggs for under $1 a piece now again. And I think that all of those things start to add up, and sooner than later, people start saying, gosh, you said Trump was going to destroy the economy in the first run. That didn't happen. The economy boomed. Then COVID came. Yeah, COVID came because they wanted to destroy the economy for the election in 2020. And when they couldn't destroy the economy, which if you recall, even during COVID in 2020, they couldn't destroy the economy. They shut everything down, and they couldn't destroy the economy. Then they said, okay, well, we're going to have to go one step further. We're going to have to start killing people. Yeah. And if we start killing people, that'll certainly put, the damper on Trump's popularity and maybe get him kicked out. And then obviously 2020 through 2024 during the corrupt Biden era, so many people started seeing what was really going on. And even people that sided with masks and got the vaccine, that saw friends die of cardiac arrest, started realizing, gosh, maybe I've been hoodwinked.
Yeah. And, one thing that I want to touch upon is the velocity of money is always, ever since the first time I heard you talk about it and I watch it, when you find a group of people, and by a group, I mean the U.S. citizens, the W-2 workers that are just living paycheck to paycheck, if they open their minds, and it's not that hard to open your mind to understand how money moves and how things can change. It takes a little bit because you've been programmed, meticulously programmed since birth to be a spoke in the wheel. But they've gotten people to hate the idea of money. They've got people to hate the idea of capitalism, but those same people are saying, I just want everything, but they can have everything and they could work to get it. But for themselves, they could find new ways of making money. And you say, all right, IRS goes away. If that day comes, I am hopeful. Yep. I'm hopeful. But if that day comes, all the people talking about, I'm not going to pay taxes this year. So many people are saying that. And I'm like, well, they're going to come for you. That's for sure, at least to some degree. But it's the idea is there. If you keep more money in your pocket, you start spending more money. Your life becomes better and more money comes to you because the economy is growing. The last time you gave me 100, I called my audio engineer on the new rap song I'm working on and I transferred it right to him and that covered the bill. It just went like this, whoop. And that is what the velocity of money is. That's what everyone's yearning for. They're yearning for an ability to retain their own wealth and to live a prosperous life. We're all in the same fight. They just made us think that we're not.
Yeah, and that's it. We are all in the same fight. And I think you just hit it on the head, is that right now people are blaming Trump for the fact that their life sucks, and they don't realize their life started sucking in 2012. It started sucking in 2008 when Barack Obama got elected, which I believe that election was questionable. I think 2012 was 100% rigged. Even Steve Jobs said Barack Obama is likely to be a one-term president, and I believe he was accurate. But we didn't have any idea of the depth of the corruption. We didn't know how much the Dems were cheating, and that's the only way they can win an election. They can't win an election legitimately anymore. The support just isn't there. But I think that the challenge is that people blame Trump for everything wrong in their life, and they don't realize Trump didn't cause this. They're blaming Trump for the riots. Oh, every time Trump's in office, there's riots. Yeah, that is true. But Trump's not rioting, so Trump's not causing the riot. You're rioting. And if you're rioting when Trump's in office, Trump's not the fault. You're the fault. ICE killed those people. No, they killed themselves. Yeah, nobody should have died. And I have sympathy for the people that died, and I have sympathy for their family and anybody impacted by their deaths. They caused their own deaths. And I have no sympathy for that. None. Yeah. I love my children very much. And if my children did something really, really, really stupid and got a really stupid consequence from that, I wouldn't have any sympathy for them either. You can only tell your kids so many times, grab a jacket. Where we're going, it's cold. And if they say, I don't want a jacket, okay, then don't complain when it's cold.
Yeah. And going to what you said about the 2012 election and going back to 2008, I believe it was in 08 on the campaign trail in Ohio, there is video clear as day of Barack Obama saying, when you control the voting machines, you get special benefits. And finally in Ohio, we control the voting machines. And then he realized he said too much out loud. And he's like, you know what I mean? But that way we can make sure there's no cheating.
Right.
Insinuating that the Republicans were cheating forever when they had the majority there, and saying the quiet part out loud. We have the majority, so we control who wins. And everyone.
Well, nothing more. Just like when Biden said, we've created the greatest election fraud organization in the history of the United States. They tell you the truth out loud. Jimmy Kimmel, that pathetic human being, was at an ICE riot with his children, and they're all holding signs up. And his kid is holding up a sign, paid agitator, with dollar signs on it. Well, he said it to make us think that he was making fun of that idea, but that's what they're doing. And so they consistently do that. It's a psyop to do that. If somebody comes to me that I'm robbing blind and they say, did you steal money from me? If the first thing I say is, oh, yeah, of course I did. I stole boatloads of money from you. If I can make it seem ridiculous, then you'll feel guilty about accusing me.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. It's called gaslighting when you accuse somebody else of what you're doing. But another form of gaslighting is to ridicule their idea that you might be doing something, to ridicule the idea that a crime is being committed. If they can ridicule it and make fun of it and say, oh, yeah, it's going on. I had the woman that embezzled over $1 million from me. My team did a happy birthday video for me one time. And the birthday video was me calling in, hey, I'm coming back, I'll be there in a minute. My secretary jumping up from the pool where she was lounging with the phone beside her, racing into the office so she could be at her desk when I got there so it didn't look like she was working on her tan while I was gone. My personal assistant is in my cigar lounge, smoking my $125 cigars, drinking my $8,000 a bottle cognac. So it's all parody stuff. The woman that embezzled $1 million from me, guess what her parody was? She was sitting at a table covered in cash, and she's saying, oh, yeah, Marshall, he's such a good boss. I love working for Marshall. There's so many benefits to working for Marshall. You know, he's a good guy to work for. And she was stuffing cash in her shirt because that's what she was doing. She was embezzling money from me. And so they tell us what they're going to do. They tell us what's going on. Jimmy Kimmel, without a doubt, one of the biggest guilty parties of telling us what they're going to do, because they think that if they use humor, we'll think they're just using humor. No, they're telling us what they're doing.
Yeah, it's true. It's, again, back to the predictive programming.
Yes.
It's put it in there, make it sound crazy. So when you're accused of it, everyone on your side just says, ha, ha, ha. And I find this.
Yeah, he was just joking about it. That wasn't really going on.
Yeah, I find it interesting about the paid protesters as well. They're all like, the people that follow the lead of the paid protesters, you just need a couple of people paid. And then the as I say, the lemmings will follow, the ones that are truly radicalized. The other ones are just capitalists parading as socialists. So when I argue with them online, they're like, no one's getting paid. I said, no, you're not getting paid. You're a useful idiot. You're doing the bidding because you're like, yay, we're all in this together. The capitalist that acts like he's a Marxist, he's collecting bank, he's pass and go, he's collecting $200. He's playing.
He's profiting off your insanity.
Yeah,
he's harnessed the morons. What you said useful idiot? There's a Jewish term for it too. What is the Jewish term? Goyim, I think. At any rate, yeah, that's where we are right now. And so my prayer is this show will help people wake up.
Yeah.
My prayer is that this show will help people at least have the conversation. And again, I didn't ask you to call in. You called in because you wanted to call in. But my prayer is that as people begin to wake up and realize, I told my sister who was asking me about Fulton County and what's going on in Georgia right now, she said, what do you think will happen? I said, I first and foremost believe that the fraud there was so blatant, the fact that it wasn't more exposed. Ruby Freeman is posting on social media, yeah, we won the election for Joe Biden. He's going to have to give us a pardon, LOL. Well, because she knew she broke the law. That's why she knows she's going to need a pardon. She's bragging on social media. People are calling her up to interview her. Newscasters, journalists are calling her up to interview her because she's bragging all over social media that they cheated the election for Joe Biden. And the day that the interview is supposed to happen, she tells the journalist, I'm sorry, my attorney said maybe I shouldn't talk to you. Yeah, Ruby, you just admitted a felony repeatedly. We have you on video committing a felony. So I think what's going to happen down in Georgia is there's going to be unequivocal proof, because there always was, that the election was stolen, that they flipped the votes, that they changed the machines, that they put in fraudulent ballots. All that's going to be exposed. And now when they get to Pennsylvania, where 350,000 votes were driven by a truck driver who was a UPS subcontractor, didn't even work for the government, but he was driving votes from New York to Pennsylvania. His truck breaks down. He goes into the back. One of the pallets had fallen over. All the pallets were marked with boxes, votes for Joe Biden. He thought it was the weirdest thing that he was driving votes from New York to a Pennsylvania election. He said it didn't make any sense. If these were Pennsylvania votes, wouldn't they already be in Pennsylvania? Why am I driving them on a UPS truck? Well, when he discovered what was on his truck, the ballot had broken open. He saw the boxes marked votes for Joe Biden. He reported it to his superiors. They lambasted him. They reprimanded him and said, you weren't supposed to look in the back of the truck. But when he gets the truck to the destination that he was supposed to get it to, where a normal truck driver would drop off the truck, somebody would sign they'd received the vehicle, nobody would sign for it. Nobody wanted to go on record as receiving what they knew were fraudulent votes. They knew they were. So he said it was the weirdest thing. Nobody would sign for the load. Never had it happen in my entire career. Couldn't figure out why it was going on. It went on for hours, though, and I finally said, I got to get some sleep. So I went to a motel that was literally 1 block away from where the truck was parked. Go to sleep, wake up in the morning, go back to the lot at 6 a.m. My rig is there, but the trailer's gone. Once nobody was watching, they took the trailer away, unloaded the votes. Cobo Hall, Detroit, Michigan. I have a friend of mine that was one of the Republican observers. She's an attorney out of Texas. She was observing in Cobo Hall. They kicked everybody out at 10 o'clock.
And put up the bag.
They said, go home. We're going to resume in the morning. She went back to the hotel. She said at 2 a.m. she felt uneasy. She said, something's not sitting right. She got back up, got dressed, went back down to Cobo Hall, walked back in. She said first thing she noticed is there was no other Republican observers there, just Democrats there. But she said it surprised her that so many Democrats were still there since they said they were kicking everybody out. She said the other thing that happened is at a point in time about 3 a.m, the back doors opened. She said that was weird because not one vote had come in the back door. Every single vote, every delivery had come in through the front door except for this delivery. And this delivery was 2 big trucks filled with, again, boxes that were marked on the box. Votes for Joe Biden. Well, I'm sorry. That's not how votes are handled. You can't separate votes before they're tallied. Nobody would know. Somebody separated the votes before they were tallied because every single box coming in. And she said everybody started cheering when the boxes started coming in, which she thought was weird. It's 3 a.m. All these boxes coming in. You got more work to do. Why are you so happy about more work to do? They were happy because they were votes for Joe Biden, and they were all voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And so, we have all these centers of corruption that happened all over the country. Don't even talk about the fact that in Arizona, they gave people coming in that they knew were Republicans' pens that they knew would be rejected in the machines. The felt tip markers they gave them weren't ballpoint pens that the ballots were supposed to be marked in. If somebody they thought was a Republican, they gave them a felt tip marker because they knew that would reject the vote. And then a person could look at it, another Democratic observer, and could reject the vote altogether and just eliminate it. That's what happened in Arizona. So here's what's going to happen. Mark my words. Watch this. Great. They just let me have one more viewer. I'm so glad. Mark my words. What's going to happen is it's going to be fully exposed in Georgia. The crime is going to be unquestionable. There's not going to be any arguments because we got real people actually looking at this and not biased investigators throwing it out the moment they see it because they're paid to throw it out. Real people are looking at it right now. Kristi Noem went down there to send a message to the world. This is a real investigation, not one of those BS investigations where you said everything was copacetic before. And they're going to find the fraud. Georgia's going to turn around. All we need is that swing of 11,000 votes they claim they got above Trump. And we've got hundreds of thousands of votes already exposed. They already admitted down in Georgia that over 300,000 votes weren't registered, weren't accredited, weren't certified. They never should have been counted. 300,000, and every single one of those 300,000 votes were for Biden. They've already admitted that. So we're going to see, it's going to turn, it's going to be exposed that Biden didn't win Georgia, then Michigan, then Pennsylvania, then Arizona, then likely, in my opinion, Wisconsin too, because Wisconsin roared back this year. Michigan roared back this past election, and Arizona, I don't know if it roared back. It wimped. It stumbled back, I think. But we're going to see all of it exposed. And again, for all of you patriots watching the show right now that have been so exhausted over the last 5 years, and we all have been, I want you to know, stay true to the course. There are going to be arrests. We're starting to see them now. The fraud in Minnesota, Walz resigning and saying he's not going to, not resigning, but saying he's not going to, move for re-election. All those are remarkably good things. I promise you, the fraud's going to be exposed. Ilhan Omar, claiming that she was attacked by some guy that sprayed spray on her. It's just ludicrous. I don't know anybody. I don't care how you could be a 7-foot, 300-pound solid wall of muscle. Somebody sprays an unknown liquid on you, the first thing you do is you pull the clothing away from you for fear that it's acid, that you're not poisoned, that it's some kind of thing that will make you sick. You get the clothes off immediately. You don't charge after the guy that's got the syringe that just squirted you because you might get squirted again. You don't do that. Every indication it was a setup. It wasn't real. It was staged. People screaming, oh, just like Trump's assassination attempt was staged. He didn't really get shot in the ear. Tell that to the dead guy. Tell that to the guy that actually got shot. So there were bullets flying, no matter what you think. Tell that to the other two people besides the guy that got killed and besides Trump that also got injured by bullets that were flying, and tell me how fake were those bullets.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
It's crazy because there's so many people that said that, and they're the ones roaring the loudest about the apple cider vinegar in a syringe stunt. And the other thing that I'd have to say, first thing I noticed, not was that, she looked right at him, nodded. There's there's pictures that are circulating. I haven't double checked if they're AI or not of them together at previous town halls, like smiling. Yep. But if you're going to spray,
there's boatloads of pictures of him. Yeah, the picture with her could be AI. We don't know that, yeah. But the fact is, they've also uncovered proof that he worked for her husband's winery. That he was on the payroll.
The winery.
The winery that's received millions and millions and millions of dollars, that has no physical address, has no website, hasn't sold one bottle of wine, yet went from making $15,000 to $5 million in 2025. The fraud's coming out.
Yeah,
it is. And then here's the magic. When Nick Shirley's already boots on the ground in California, when they start exposing the fraud in California, it's going to be nuts.
Yes.
Nuts. So did you have a question, or did you just want to talk politics?
I just was talking about people being scared to start businesses, but I got riled up from watching the monologue. So
yeah, my fault. So people are afraid to start businesses, and that's why we're doing this show from Studio Money. The reason I call this Studio Money, the reason we're sitting in the vault, is I want people to be encouraged right now with all the chaos going on, with all the riots and nonsense and all the BS. We are in, mark my words, we're not in a golden era. No. It's way, way, way better than that. We are in a silver era, and we are in a time where we're going to start seeing financial abundance like we've never seen in our lifetimes. We're going to start seeing patriotism again like we saw right after 9/11. We're going to start seeing people be reminded of what it's like to be an American and not what it's like to be a libtard. You take a look at the majority of the people on the left, the majority of the people rioting, they're middle-aged white women that can't get laid. And because they can't get laid, they're sexually frustrated, so they're out yelling at anybody. They hate men. They hate America. They hate anybody that doesn't stand for what they believe in, and they just want to believe they're right because they have no good motion in their life. They'll take any kind of motion that they can get.
Yep. Yeah.
I said it out loud. Boy, I'm going to get flack for that. I'm okay with it because middle-aged white women, you just need to get laid. That's what you need. Hey, John, thanks for calling in, brother.
Thank you for having me.
God bless you.
God bless
this
you.
$100 is for you. That one's for you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Have
now.
a good one.
You too. Good stuff. We're having fun. Yeah, I said it out loud. That's, I was watching a video, a black woman actually, that said, I don't know why these people are rioting. You're not serving black people. You're not serving Mexican people. Mexicans overwhelmingly voted for Trump. Citizens that are here legally that are of, that are Mexican American, they don't support illegal immigration. Just because they're Mexican, you think they also are criminals? That's not true. Illegals are illegals. They could be white, they could be Mexican, they could be Somalian. It doesn't matter. You can't come into the country unless you're invited into the country with a visa or a passport, or you're legitimately supposed to be here. That's the point. We have laws for a reason. Poland is flourishing right now. Why? Because they don't allow Islamic immigration into their country. They're saying, no, we're not taking these people. They can't assimilate anywhere they go. The Islamic invasion that's going on around the world, I have nothing against people that are Muslim. You can be Muslim. God bless you. Good luck. Except every single country that's predominantly Muslim is being destroyed by that ideology. It's not a religion. It's not a religion. It's a political movement. It's a governmental stance. So the challenge is if you keep importing people that destroyed the country that they just came from, they're going to destroy this one. When we're seeing millions and millions and billions of dollars being funneled out of Minnesota, which is always the hotbed of this nonsense, when we're seeing billions of dollars in suitcases moving through airports back to Somalia. That's not somebody earning a living. That's not somebody who's doing good business. That's somebody that reached in your pocket, pulled out cash, put it in theirs, then put it in a suitcase and shipped it off to terrorists who are going to come back to destroy your country. It's time for it to stop. We got to put our foot down. We've got to have an opinion. We've got to risk losing business. I just mentioned that Islam is not a religion, and most people aren't brave enough to say that out loud. It's my opinion. You can hate me for having an opinion, but you can't stand by the First Amendment and hate me too. You got to pick a side. So if you're allowed to say what you say, I'm allowed to say what I say. And the fact of the matter is, are there peaceful Muslims? Of course there are, but they're not real Muslims. No, the ideology, the doctrine inside the Quran says if you're not Muslim, I am to either convert you. If you won't convert, I am to tax you. If you won't pay the tax, or what they call the taqiyya, I am to kill you. That's not assimilation. It's in the doctrine. Yes, it starts off peaceful. It doesn't end up peaceful. It ends up with the prophet as a pedophile marrying a 9-year-old and killing people that won't convert. I said it out loud again. I guess when I don't really have any content for the show, I can say whatever I want to say, and we'll see what happens with this. But that's my opinion, and I think there's a lot of people that hold that opinion and are afraid to say it out loud. Next caller, who we got? I do. Well, you know what? I have, like I said, we're in a testing process right now. And thanks, John, for calling in. We are working out bugs. We're working on monitors and cameras and sets and everything here. And so today's show, I'm going to stop the show a little early. I've got an engagement coming up here in a couple of minutes. Tomorrow, I will be back on the air. And tomorrow, I'm going to talk about relationship. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about sex and everything related to having better relationships with our significant other. More money throughout the course of the week because money cures most things. Going to talk a bit about health. So much going on. Tune in every single day. I'll be live all this week. I'll be live all next week, Monday through Friday, starting at 10 o'clock. If you like free cash, if you like what I'm talking about, if you hate what I'm talking about, by all means, tune in and argue with me. I'd like that. I'd like to hear some other opinions. If you're, by the way, if you are a Muslim, and you just heard me talk about what I just talked about, I am open to the conversation. I am. I want to hear from you. But nothing I've seen would change my position whatsoever. If you're a Democrat and you if you protested and you were in the middle of the street and you think I'm an absolute moron in that I had a Democrat actually, I made a comment about that thing. Somebody breaks into your house and you discover, should they be allowed to stay? She private messaged me. I won't say her name out loud, because I don't know what it is, because if I knew what it was, I would. But she private messaged me. She said, we know where you and your family live. That's a blatant threat. That's what that is. That's a threat. And so I messaged her back, and I said, you just threatened me. So here's the details I know about where you live. Here's the details about who you work for. Here's all that I know. I'm about to contact your employer and tell them you're threatening my life and the life of my family. I'm about to expose you on social media for being this nasty human being that you are. And people judged me for exposing the person that was threatening my family. Oh, my God. So I guess if it's okay for her to do it, it's okay for you to do it. No, I didn't do anything. I just exposed what she did. I didn't threaten her. I said, this is who she is. Do what you will. If you're that woman, by the way, and because I know you're watching me, because otherwise you wouldn't have messaged me privately. If you're that woman who blocked me, but you still watch me, talk to you tomorrow. I'm Marshall Silver. Make it an awesome day. We are in this thing together, and together we'll solve this. Until we meet again, take good care of each other. We're in this thing together called life. God bless.